Hello, and welcome to a brief history of the Sony PlayStation. Ready? Let's go. The PlayStation started out as an add-on to the Super Nintendo to compete with the Sega CD. The other reason Nintendo wanted to get into CDs is because they could hold a massive 600 megabytes, which is less than a gigabyte, but it was a lot for its time. Nintendo then contracted Sony to create a CD drive as an add-on, but before Nintendo approached Sony executives had talked about a console of their own, but it was promptly shot down. The executives made it simple. We will never make a game console. In 1991, the add-on was complete, and at CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, Sony announced the PlayStation add-on to the Super Nintendo. Very soon after, Nintendo announced that the add-on would not be produced by Sony, but by Philips. That meant Nintendo had gone behind Sony's back and asked Philips to make the add-on. The Sony executives were furious, and the head engineer for the add-on, Ken Kutaragi, proposed that Sony produce their own console. And so, in stereotypical, you dishonored me, I have to get back at you ways of the Japanese, the Sony president said two legendary words: do it. Soon after the CEO's command, development started on the PlayStation. The system originally was going to use CDs and Super Nintendo cartridges, but that idea was scrapped and they decided just to use CDs. The CPU, clocked at 33 MHz, was designed personally by Ken Kutaragi himself. The key feature to the PlayStation was real-time 3D graphics. It was the fastest console on the market, and it gave developers a large toolbox to work with when developing games. But Sony knew that processing power alone wasn't enough to sell the PlayStation, so they contacted developers and had them start on games. In only Japan, they had 250 developers working on games. In December of 1994, Sony released the PlayStation. In 3 months, 1 million consoles sold in Japan. Just to make sure the European and United States launches go well, Sony spent $3 million on a booth at E3 and created a massive marketing campaign. On September 9th, 1995, the PlayStation was released in Europe and the US. As of today, the PlayStation has sold over 35 million units. And now, to talk about the PlayStation 2, Kealan, take it over.
The console that replaced the PlayStation was the PlayStation 2, or PS2 for short. The PlayStation 2 was released in October 2000 and was the most successful console sold, with over 150 million consoles sold and record-breaking sales. The manufacturers were unable to keep up with consumer needs at first, but that was alright, just the consumers wanted the PlayStation 2 because it had DVD and music compatibilities. Later on, it brought in the iToy camera to compete with the Wii in 2006 and had a slim version later released in 2005. The PlayStation 3 came out after the PlayStation 2 and was released in 2006. It had a massive leap in technology with the Blu-ray disc feature and the HD movies being able to play them at 1080p. And it also came with free online services and an online PlayStation store. Now, at first, consumers did not buy it because the Blu-ray feature, they thought it would be a lot more expensive than it actually was.
And now, the big boy in the block, the PS4. First, let's talk about some technical specs. The PS4 boasts an 8-core processor running at 1.6 GHz. That's 6 more cores than your family computer. And sure, 1.6 GHz may seem kinda slow, but with 8 cores to chop up that work, that doesn't matter. Now, let's talk about RAM. It's got 8 GB of DDR5 RAM. That's insane. Your PC at home probably has DDR2 RAM. At the moment, the PS4 is fairly new, but people are already saying it's won the console war against the Xbox One. Yes, I know. The Xbox is bad, but we're not going to talk about that. Anyway, the PS4 is currently selling for $399. In the future, we can probably expect bigger and better games to come out on the PS4. And maybe some virtual reality stuff. Cough, cough, Project Morpheus. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Make sure if you have any questions to ask me, Tanner, or you can ask Kealan.